The credit bureau is going to be less concerned about the accuracy of that information than they
This
would
is the
be if the credit bureau was depending
Gary
upon
Gensler,
me as the
SEC.
consumer to pay their...
Gary Gensler, SEC nomination hearing.
Yes, that's correct, and that's some of the big issues.
This has to do with
we're
Ripple
facing,
XRP.
not only when it comes to credit bureaus, but also the mass databases collected by big tech companies that are increasingly part of financial services.
Well, here's what I'm driving. Here's what I'm driving at, Mr. Shepard. Why would we not want to pass a bill that would direct the credit bureaus to establish a
This guy doesn't even have his camera on.
accessible, efficient, and effective appeals process for a consumer? Let's suppose a business says,
"What's up, VAR?
You didn't pay a bill in the right amount and on time, and you disagree with that."
This is very interesting. This guy doesn't even have his
credit if that is
camera
reported to a credit bureau. Why wouldn't we want to tell the credit bureaus, look, you're going to set up a formal process to hear consumers
What's up, Millie Billy?
who think they have been wronged?
This is the Gary Gensler nomination here.
Accuracy is critical for the credit reporting system to work, and there's too many consumers who have problems.
Yeah, but would you support a bill like that, Mr. Shopper?
Well, I would love to look at it, but I think the idea
off.
of making sure that consumers can dispute and get answers, that's part of the Fair Credit Reporting Act, but I would definitely like to make sure that consumers have
this guy's aggressive on the other end.
Excuse me for interrupting. I know it's the law, but
this guy's the most aggressive.
It's going to be properly effectuated until we put in a formal process and pass a bill and says to the credit bureaus, look, even though you don't get money from consumers, you're going to have to pay attention and listen seriously and attentively when they tell you you got bad information. Let me move to Mr. Gensler. Mr. Gensler, good morning. You were there. You were there in 2008 and 2009. You
What's up, everyone?
A very critical role.
We're in the
our response
Gary Gensler SEC nomination hearing.
Why didn't anybody on Wall Street
just watching this? Dustin, thank
Senator
you, man.
Kennedy, I share your
What's up,
concern about that. We at the CFTC held folks accountable for rigging the interest rate market, for manipulating
rigging the
currency markets. And
yes, sir, but why didn't anybody go to jail?
Those are questions I share with you, sir. I mean,
dude, this guy's aggressive right here.
For running a civil law enforcement agency, and we every day brought the evidence, the law, and the facts together in front of courts and held people accountable.
I know, but who made the call? Somebody.
He's a Kennedy.
Justice had to have said, we're not going to put these thieves in jail. Who did that?
Well, I think you're right that it's largely the Department of Justice, and these are hard cases
Kennedy
to try,
guy.
hard cases to piece together and show intent, or what I remember the term was called scienter in the Latin form. And
man, they use Latin a lot.
Justice, sir.
Yeah. Okay. I'm out of time, Mr. Chairman.
I just woke up, folks.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy.
I had to watch this. I've been watching for like an hour.
From Nevada, it's recognized.
Thank you. Thank you for this hearing. Congratulations.
Look at her setup, though. Damn.
Mr. Gensler, let me just start with you in a follow-up to
she got the real setup right here.
Questions to you during the foreclosure crisis. You weren't working at Justice at that time. Is that correct?
No, Senator, I was not.
And the agency that you were working at didn't
Look at
have
Gary.
any criminal
Look at Gary, man.
actions. Is that correct?
That is correct. As an attorney general of a state, you appreciate these distinctions, so I thank you.
Thank you. So let me ask you in an area that I know is a concern for all of us.
XRP to the moon?
As more individuals begin to engage with the financial markets through no-fee online trading platforms, I am concerned that investors may get in over their heads with large and complicated trades on apps that gamify the stock market.
Oh, gamify?
the horrific results of that. So if confirmed, can I ask you what steps?
Who's the chick in the back? The chick in the back is Gary's daughter, I believe.
Investors who want to be involved in the stock market, but maybe
Phoenix
less
in the background?
knowledgeable about trading risks.
Yep, she's got the eagle, Phoenix.
Senator, I thank you. I think that every day on the job, I'm going to be animated by working families and protecting investors as a key mandate of the agency. I think
I think that's his daughter in the back.
Greater access, but it also raises interesting questions.
Oh, his wife?
You mentioned
might be his wife.
About, quote, gamification. It also raises these interesting questions about what does it mean when balloons and confetti are dropping and you have behavioral prompts to get investors to do more transactions on what appears to be a free trading app, but then there's this payment
free trading
behind
app.
The scenes.
Is that Robinhood they're talking
order flow? And I think we're going to need to sort of study that and think about it. And what does this mean for our marketplace?
Well, I know many of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle are concerned about this, so we look forward to working with you.
Does he look that old?
Forward. And let me just touch on
old.
one issue that was brought up.
She looks like Bernie Sanders.
Diversity and inclusion and equity in corporate America is somehow a quota. It is not a quota, and that's the problem we have here. And I think my goal and many of my colleagues, and this is why we support NASDAQ's proposal to increase transparency.
What's up, Critical Ed?
The composition of the boards of exchange-listed companies is because we need a paradigm shift. We need a cultural change.
Oh, yes, we need a paradigm shift.
And
yes,
I think we have heard from my colleagues the importance of why this is a benefit to our companies because of the McKinsey published studies. We know that this really is a benefit to the companies long-term, including when it comes to their profits, when they are actually really engage in diversity, inclusion, and equity. So I want to make sure you know that. Many of my colleagues supported what NASDAQ is doing in this space. So please be aware of that.
I'm yet to hear them talk about Ripple XRP.
I know I don't have
I've been watching
time,
for like an hour.
But thank you also
and I just started streaming
your willingness to serve. So we have talked about this. I am a strong advocate for restitution for harmed consumers. Not only should we provide relief to people who are overcharged or misled, but we should
live at the moment? Yeah,
bad
it is.
Actors from continuing that deceptive.
You can go to the original live stream in the link in the description.
I was concerned by CFPB's enforcement.
But this is live right now.
Previous administration,
this
which
is
failed
live
to
right
provide restitution for consumers. So could you elaborate on your views on providing restitution for people who really were dealt with unfair, deceptive?
Yeah, it's been going on for like 1 hour already.
Yeah, so Senator, when victims of fraud and misconduct are not made whole, that doesn't just hurt them, it also hurts every other business who is trying to follow the law and treat them the right way. I have pushed hard against the FTC's approach of these no money, no fault settlements in egregious fraud. It is something that economically just does not make sense. When you rip someone off and don't have to pay them back, how is that really much of a sanction? So restitution is a critical part of the CFPB's law enforcement work in order to make...
This is all to script, folks.
Thank you, and I appreciate that that position.
I think there's 100 senators, and there's only...
The other area that I would love to work with...
There's 100 senators, and it's been through like 80 or something.
What in general do you see the role for supporting our small businesses through the CFPB?
Well, I think a lot of our regulators and agencies need to make sure that there is not unlawful practices in small business lending at the FTC. We've taken action against companies that have even threatened to break small business owners' jaws if they did not pay it back. At the CFPB, Congress has asked the agency to
break their jaws?
A small business data collection. I do think enforcing the law to protect small businesses is absolutely critical right now. Small businesses are facing extinction. I've worked with you a lot, Senator, about issues facing franchisees. We have to make sure that the bedrock of our community of small business does not go away after this pandemic. That's absolutely critical.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know my time is up.
Thank you, Senator Cortez Masto. Senator Haggerty, I believe, is here.
This guy screwed up before. This guy.
Okay,
He left his mic on.
You're recognized.
Chairman Brown, thank you. Ranking Member Toomey, thank you as well for holding this hearing for two
Man,
very
this guy looks
important
scary.
regulators in our financial regulatory landscape. In America, our financial markets, as Senator Toomey rightly noted in his opening remarks,
Yep,
are the envy of the world.
I agree.
I was just on a call with our bankers in Tennessee who were expressing their concerns that we maintain that strength and that we be certain that we not allow regulators to use the regulatory construct in the financial markets to backdoor social policies that could have an adverse impact on our economy and are frankly much better addressed in other arenas. We have a very rapidly evolving technology landscape. We have new market entrants coming aboard, and we certainly should not take America's market leadership for granted. I think all of us want to maximize our economic recovery, and it's certainly important not to use ideologically driven regulatory practices at a time when we need to see our economy open up. My first question is for Mr. Gensler. And Mr. Gensler, we've discussed this before, and I'm concerned very much about
Come on, mention XRP already.
Capricious, potentially overly reaching regulatory rulemaking.
Can XLM take over XRP? No, they're built for different purposes.
I know that you talked about this with others on the committee, but I want to just highlight again our discussion about taking an economic approach as you've described and the great importance of utilizing cost-benefit analysis moving forward. But moving into another arena, I want to compliment you on the undertaking that you've had in digital assets, the role that you played at the MIT Media Lab. I think is going to be very instructive.
This guy just complimented Gary.
And
let's go, Gary.
If we think about the area of financial regulations in such rapidly innovating markets, I think it's very challenging from a regulatory standpoint to manage that type of environment. To put it another way, using a Tennessee terminology, you don't want to be shooting where the rabbit was. My question to you, Mr. Gensler, and it's an open-ended one, if you could share your perspective on
this guy's a lizard,
the SEC's role under your leadership, if you're confirmed, in how you will approach digital assets.
His eyes are scary.
Senator, I thank you for that opening. I share your thoughts. It's always important to update our market oversight to new technologies, but I believe foremost to be technology neutral. And I say this because if this new technology of cryptocurrency and potentially central bank digital currencies comes along.
Oh, here we go, CBDC.
It's important to stay true to our principles of investor protection.
Finally talking about it a bit.
Capital formation, but at the same time be technology neutral. So I think that at the SEC,
when do you think a ruling?
Really, to the extent that somebody is offering an investment contract or security that's under the SEC's remit, and they have exchanges that operate there, then we have to make sure there's investor protection. If it's not that, and it's a commodity, as Bitcoin has been deemed to be, and it's either a question for Congress, how Congress would want that to be overseen, or
the girl in the background is his wife, I think, or his daughter. Both of those have been mentioned.
The staff, I'd work with fellow commissioners and see how we can move forward, and to the extent investors can be protected. And
notice how he has the stairway. He's going to bring us stairway to heaven.
Allowed to do so, but to do so in, again, the core function of investor protection and capital formation.
I appreciate your cognizance of your jurisdiction, and also, and importantly, the role of the Congress in overseeing this and dealing with it. This is an area where I think we have great potential for leadership if handled right, and I think we should be very careful not to have too heavy a hand, but bringing your experience and your expertise to bear, I think you can make a significant mark in this rapidly evolving market. And I want to make certain that we take the right touch and the right coordinated approach between our legislative oversight and the role that you'll play, if you're confirmed, running this important independent agency. Thank you.
Well, I thank you, and if I can appropriate your line about not shooting where the rabbit was, I thank you for that too.
Tennesseans all understand that, Mr. Gensler. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, Mr. Gensler, I've already appropriated it, sorry. Thank you, Senator Hagerty. Senator Van Hollen from Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member, and congratulations again to Mr. Chopra and Mr. Gensler on your nominations. And if I'm not able to get to the second round, Mr. Chopra, I will submit some questions for the record. Mr. Gensler, you and I had a chance to speak before this hearing, and I raised some concerns and some specific legislation I've introduced that I consider sort of SEC good housekeeping principles. One's a bill that I've introduced with Senator Fisher around 10b5 plans. The other one deals with the 8K trading gap. Both bills are intended to provide investors and the public with confidence that CEOs and other insiders are not taking advantage of insider information. And my question for you today is, will you commit to working with me and providing technical assistance as we work to pass these bills?
Senator, I wanted to start by just thanking you for that warm introduction about an hour and a half ago to the committee, because you and I have known each other about 20 years, and that was very kind of you. But yes, I look forward, if confirmed, to work with you and your staff providing technical assistance and having the staff of the SEC help as well.
Right. I think we've seen many stories, and there may even be ongoing investigations into some of reports about insiders gaming the system. Right now, the rules allow too much gaming, and so I intend to work with you to close those loopholes. Let me go back a little bit to the questions that Senator Toomey and some others have referenced regarding corporate disclosure rules and materiality, what kind of information they provide to shareholders. You cited the Supreme Court standard regarding a reasonable investor and what a reasonable investor would want to know. And of course, that information changes over time, right? I mean, 20 years ago, we wouldn't necessarily see climate change risks as something that is essential to the success of a particular company.
They still haven't mentioned XRP.
For the SEC to keep an open eye to the evolving interests of the reasonable investor to ensure that the disclosure rules match their demands for information.
Yes, Senator, and I think that the importance here is that, and it's the courts have helped define this, that it's the investor community that gets to decide what's material to them. It's not a government person like myself. It's all about that reasonable investor. Do they think it's significant in the mix of information? And so I'm going to be guided by that. And I concur with you in 2021.
Yeah, they probably won't mention Ripple.
There's tens of trillions of dollars of invested
nomination
assets that are looking for more information about climate risk. And I think then the SEC has a role to play to help bring some consistency and comparability to those guidelines.
And with respect to corporate political spending, I mean, Senator Toomey, I think, gave the example of how that spending may represent a small fraction of a company's assets. But wouldn't a reasonable investor, or isn't something we should look into, whether a reasonable investor believes that there's a reputational risk to a company if they're spending secret money in politics and that becomes known and revealed? Isn't reputational risk something that a reasonable investor might consider?
Right. I think, Senator, you're correct that it's what is a reasonable investor think is in that mix of information. Would they buy a stock, sell a stock, or a bond, or vote yes or no? And it's up to those investors. And then to work to help provide some guidance to issuers as to provide that information in that context.
Thank you. Now, in addition to serving on the Banking and Housing and Urban Affairs Committee, I now chair a subcommittee on the Appropriations Committee that oversees financial services and general government, the FISG subcommittee. And in 2016, the GSA submitted, with approval from the SEC, a prospectus to Congress to authorize a lease for a new headquarters facility for the SEC in the District of Columbia. That prospectus was formally approved by the House and the Senate Committees of Jurisdiction in 2018. Congress has also appropriated $263 million to the SEC.
There is no subtitles on live. I can't do that.
If
Sorry.
confirmed, will you transfer the appropriated dollars to GSA so the headquarters project can advance?
Senator, as we discussed in some private meetings, if confirmed, I would work with the SEC staff and GSA to better get up to speed on this. I know it's an important matter that you've raised. I've not been yet briefed on the matter because it's confidential negotiations between GSA and various potential real estate options, as I understand it.
But you would agree that it's important for the SEC to, follow the direction that Congress has provided here.
I would agree that it's always important, not just on real estate, but also on other mandates from Congress.
These guys are like almost laughing.
Congressional will.
I appreciate that answer, and this is a case where I think Congress has spoken. Thank you to both our nominees, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Van Hollen. Senator Lummis from Wyoming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Brown. I have questions in this round for Mr. Gensler, and it's nice to see you again, Mr. Gensler. In some quarters, the SEC has a reputation for being a black hole for innovators. Do you agree that we need to provide more legal clarity through rulemaking and no action letters to innovators in the digital asset space and in the blockchain industry specifically?
Senator, I thank you. I thank you for our conversation in the last week on these matters and others. I do think that technology and markets constantly change and evolve, and that it's important for the SEC to provide guidance and clarity. Sometimes that's a clarity that will be thumbs up, but even if it's thumbs down, it's important to provide that, whether it's through guidance or no action letters, as you mentioned.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but Wyoming was the first in the U.S. to enact consumer protection laws for digital assets, including virtual currency. That happened in 2019. What are some of the ways we can work together to ensure consumer protection for digital assets that doesn't also hamper innovators?
Senator, I was aware. I think that your legislature and governor enacted 13 separate acts in the digital space in Wyoming. I think it's important to protect consumers and investors. One area of consumer protection is around the custody of their funds, digital assets. The actual ownership relies on something called a private key in cryptography.
There we go.
Ensuring that that's really that custody works. And I know Wyoming has looked at that, New York, some other states. I believe actually South Dakota may have as well. I hope I didn't leave out any of the member states. But I think also investor protection, which goes beyond just the custody of assets, but to ensure that these markets are free of fraud and manipulation. And I think that's the greater challenge, frankly, because there has been the markets for some markets usually operating overseas, but some markets have been really rife with fraud and scam. So trying to protect the investors against that fraud and manipulation.
Drop a like on this live stream if you want to see XRP $10, $100.
2018, you said in front of the House Agriculture Committee that blockchain technology has real potential to transform the world of finance. Could you talk more about how this technology can promote financial inclusion and reduce risk and create new markets?
Well, I think it's already doing some of that right now, that it's been a catalyst for change. Central banks around the globe are really looking at how to provide more inclusive payment structures, more inclusive payment tokens. And so that's in one area as a catalyst for change, but it's also other payment system providers are looking to say, how do we provide payment systems that operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and at lower cost, both cross-border and domestic.
Cross-border, that's Ripple.
Blockchain technology itself is a shared accounting system, if I might say. And I think that's also led to some new thoughts about how to do trade finance and even medical records technology and the like. So I teach it. I'm neither a maximalist nor a minimalist, but I think that it's really been a catalyst for change in numerous areas.
They know what's coming.
Well, I have
They
a
know
lot
what's
to
coming.
learn about blockchain itself. My only understanding of it is the application of Bitcoin, but it'll be interesting to see how it's useful in other areas and can be done in a way that actually saves money. I'm going to switch subjects quickly to energy. You've proposed a greater focus on environmental issues as part of your regulatory portfolio. My state of Wyoming's economy is heavily dependent on the energy sector, and our state government revenues especially. Because of that, our state government revenues are declining right now, dramatically declining because of the change in focus in our energy economy. Have you considered the practical impacts on Wyoming's economy by making it more difficult for energy companies to raise capital?
Well, Senator, I think that the disclosure regimes of climate risk that we were discussing earlier actually can be pro-issuer, pro-corporation, and pro-investors. Investors, from time to time, change the information they would want, and what they're just asking for more is about material climate risk. The climate risk that the investors see is material. And I think that can be also pro-issuer, pro-energy company to get some consistency, comparability, some clear rules as to how to do this. Right now, we have a little bit more of a, investors are asking for it and issuers aren't entirely sure how to address all those. So I think it's pro-energy company
pro-energy
to do such disclosures.
Thank you, Mr. Gensler. Mr.
Shout out to
Chairman,
this
I
girl
yield
for
back.
asking about blockchain.
Thank you, Senator Lummis. Senator Smith from Minnesota.
Thank you, Chair Brown and Ranking Member Toomey. And I want to just welcome Mr. Gensler, Mr. Chopra to the committee. It was really wonderful to have a chance to visit with you a little bit over the last few weeks. I think you both bring outstanding credentials and experience to these roles, and I look forward to supporting your confirmation. So thank you so much for being with us. I want to just start with Mr. Chopra. And I want to talk with you a little bit about the issue of student loans and federal student loan servicing, if we could. So prior to the pandemic, I heard from a lot of Minnesotans, this is an issue around the country, with struggling to pay their student loans and struggling especially to get into and then stay enrolled in income-driven repayment plans and the public service loan forgiveness program. And these are teachers and firefighters, people that are interested in public service. I'm really grateful that the Biden-Harris administration has put federal student loans on pause until September, and I'm very concerned about the ongoing challenges that we have related to getting good quality student loan servicing. So, Mr. Chopra, we know that it's essential for student loan servicing to be done well so that borrowers are able to access critical programs like the Student Loan Forgiveness Program. And I'd like to hear your thoughts about this. What can we do to ensure high quality federal student loan servicing? And how will you approach oversight to this? And what can the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau do to protect student loan borrowers and ensure access to important programs like these loan forgiveness programs?
So thank you, Senator. One of the things that I've always kept front and center is it is critical for regulators not to make the same mistakes that were made in the lead up to the financial crisis. The costs of inaction were too high, and some of the same issues that we saw in the mortgage servicing market, I think, were creeping into the student loan servicing market years ago. There are many benefits, many programs, many contractual entitlements in a borrower's loan note that they are eligible to enroll in And if servicers or debt collectors are misrepresenting those options, that is a big problem. With respect to the public service loan forgiveness program, many members of the military, teachers depended on that when making their own career decisions. So it's critical that loan servicers live up to their obligations. I understand there has been some improvement when it comes to how this servicers are performing. We are at a critical moment when so many borrowers are going to have to restart their payments, and servicers communicating and making sure that borrowers can navigate their options. And it's all done lawfully. That is very critical. And the CFPB has a big role to play in working with the Department of Education, state attorneys general, state licensors, to make sure that all of that is happening lawfully so we can avoid an avalanche of defaults when any moratorium might end.
Immortal Cerrito,
I really appreciate that. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that we face some major long-term fallout from this pandemic, including student loan issues, including housing issues. And I think particularly my heart is with people who feel like they were trying to do everything right.
Every state senator,
they understood them. And then it feels like these student loan services are just pulling the rug right out from under them. And this is a classic moment where we need more energy and more oomph behind those that are protecting consumers, especially folks that are looking for ways to make a contribution through public service and then have that rip right out from under them. So thank you very much.
Yes, and just to add one thing, so many people are entering a very tough job market, and they're also leaving school with an enormous amount of debt. And we've seen when you enter a tough job market, it can be hard to stay afloat, and people fall financially behind. We need to make sure they don't default and start off their financial lives, with more trouble, foreclosing the ability to maybe get a home or start a small business. We need to make sure the law is being followed.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Gensler, I'm about out of time, but I just wanted to thank you for your responses to questions of several of my colleagues about the importance of providing some sort of a standardized and mandatory system for laying out systemic climate risks. I think that this contributes to transparency for investors, as you suggested just a moment ago in your response to Senator Lummis.
This has all been positive.
It also helps us to really understand what the systemic risk is to asset valuation as well as to financial markets. So thank you very much for that. And I have one thing that I'm going to follow up with you on, having to do with an issue that is important to a group of people who care about new registration forms for indexed linked annuities. And I'll follow up with you on that. You and I had a chance to talk about that a little bit. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Smith. Senator Moran, I believe, is not here. Has Senator Kramer arrived yet?
They're skipping class? Come on.
And has Senator Daines arrived yet?
Senators are skipping class, folks.
And Senator Sinema is not
Mr.
arrived.
Chairman, this is Senator Daines.
Okay, go for it, Steve.
Okay.
Senator Montana is recognized.
Great.
The hell? Fix your camera,
Mr.
bro.
Chairman. Appreciate it much. So I want to talk about the issue of
bro, what's this ugly ass camera?
Duopolies. As you know, proxy firms provide a variety of services to shareholders. Most notably, they provide advice to vote their shares at shareholder meetings.
Bro, fix your camera, bro.
Companies. There's two dominant proxy firms. There's International Shareholder Services, ISS, and Glass Lewis. They control about 95% of the proxy advisory industry, which really constitutes a duopoly that's become the de facto standard setter for corporate governance in the U.S. without any meaningful input from shareholders or issuers.
Yeah, this is Mr. Poole, I swear.
Attracted bipartisan attention in the past, most notably through the House passage of the Corporate Governance Reform and Transparency Act. A similar version was sponsored by Senator Reid and other current members of the committee, including Senators Tillis and Kennedy. So this is a question, Mr. Gensler. Are you concerned about this lack of competition in the market for proxy advisory services, and concerned that some proxy advisory firms may have significant conflicts of interest, which may impact the objectivity of the voting recommendations.
Buddy really had somebody's panties over the camera.
For taking some time last week for our discussion. I do think that in all parts of the capital market, whether it's proxy advisors, whether it was the earlier question about credit rating agencies and so forth, competition is a good thing to bring about transparency and lower cost and more efficiency. So I'd share that even in this space too, as well. I think that it does bring efficiency to many pension funds to have proxy advisors. It's a service that helps pension funds and investors through the proxy season. And you also raised conflicts. I think it is the role of an agency like the SEC to try to, through transparency and other rules, to address potential conflicts of interest. And we saw some of these before the 2008 crisis in the credit rating area. And I know that the commission has attempted to do that through some rule writing last year in the proxy advisor space. But I do think they bring some efficiency and help a lot of pension funds through what otherwise would be a hard slog to consider 3,000 votes or something in the course of just a few weeks.
Thank you. You said earlier in response to a question that you have some concerns about one firm having 40, 50% of the payment for order flow retail. For example, ISS has both a research and a consulting arm. Do you think the SEC has responsibility to ensure that the proxy advisory systems function properly and that investors receive the most accurate as well as most up-to-date information prior to voting proxies?
I think that as the SEC did it last year, address proxy advisors, it's within the authorities, and it's something that if confirmed, I would work with the staff and my fellow commissioners and with you to see if there were things that were yet to be addressed that need to be addressed. But I also think it's the
shout out to Gary. Let's go.
Role in the markets during the proxy season.
Thank you. I want to shift to enforcement actions. I've been concerned the SEC under past commissioners has based enforcement actions on previous settlements and staff guidance. In your opinion, how should the SEC's enforcement division decide whether to engage in enforcement action, and when would the issuance of guidance or rulemaking might be?
This guy looks like Biden. What the hell?
Well,
low key.
I was honored to chair another agency, a civil law enforcement agency, smaller but still very important to the markets. And I think of it as enforcement. It's following the facts and the law where the facts and the law take you, but it's to stamp out fraud and manipulation in the markets. And it's to use limited resources to effectuate where there's the greatest problems in the market. So that's my philosophy. I think that, as you say, if there's a rulemaking, that's very different than enforcement. Enforcement is about following the facts and the law and using limited resources to sort of change market behavior. If there's, unfortunately, a bunch of small fraud shops, you've got to go after them, but the first 4 or 5 or 6 you go after, then maybe the others start to clean up their behavior.
NERB, yes. So we are informal here.
These are 2 really quick questions. And that would
the girl behind him is the wife.
Would you commit to
or his daughter?
Theft against senior citizens.
Look at this Joe Biden looking
We've got a lot of problem with schemes in Montana that affect our seniors.
It's a very important. Those less able to protect themselves need the SEC even more.
The Ponzi schemes as well, going after Ponzi schemes.
Yes.
You commit to enforcing there?
Yes, we did at the CFTC. I will if confirmed at the SEC.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Gensler. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Dane. Senator Ossoff from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to our nominees. Mr. Chopra, the largest investment banks are very heavily subsidized, and many would argue these massive financial institutions are dominant not because they're efficient in capital allocation or risk management, or because they offer the best products to consumers, but instead because they receive trillions in government bailouts, low interest loans, and quantitative easing. Do you agree with this assessment, and is this, in your view, a form of regulatory capture?
Well, Senator, too big to fail is a huge problem that Congress sought to fix in Dodd-Frank, and we should continue to make sure that that happens. We want competition on the merits. We want to make sure there's a market structure where small banks, small financial institutions can compete fair.
Okay, here we go with the banks.
And it's not fair if they can't. And our regulators need to be attuned to every single consumer and institution, not just the largest ones. I deeply believe that.
Appreciate that, Mr. Chopra, and building on
I don't
that
think
theme,
they will
during this
talk about
pandemic,
XRP.
much like during the crisis in 07-08, the 12 or 13 largest banks have received trillions in emergency cash. It's provided on an overnight basis, and there are no such instantaneous emergency cash facilities for credit unions or regional banks, let alone ordinary people who have had to wait months for stimulus checks. And I would note that many members of Congress who currently oppose sending cash to ordinary people in a pandemic raise no concerns about the massive scale of cash and cheap loans provided to Wall Street banks. Why is it so much easier for major banks to access emergency financial support in a crisis, and how could we level the playing field?
Well, Senator,
Oh,
you're
yes.
right. Small
Level the playing field. Again.
Households did have a tougher time getting a lifeline.
If you don't know, all the XRP mention
one of the
level the playing
things,
field.
that our Federal Reserve Chairman has talked about and others is modernizing our payment system so that we can have a more real-time system. We cannot be falling behind other countries. We see that China is in many ways investing in faster payments, in a stable coin. These are things that will help consumers and businesses get money faster to their benefit. And I strongly support the Fed's efforts to modernize that payment system so that everyone can have equal access.
Facts.
Thank you, Mr. Chopra. And I would note that the Retail Payments Office of the Fed is based at the Atlanta Fed. I want to ask you now about financial technology. We saw this week a report that Walmart has hired 2 former Goldman Sachs executives, and Walmart's investments in fintech signal an interest in expanding the provision of financial services to its massive customer base. On the one hand, more competition could benefit consumers. On the other hand, there are looser regulations for industrial loan companies, which could threaten financial stability, and the entry into the banking sector of a retail giant like Walmart could raise antitrust concerns. What are the implications for consumers and for regulators of these developments in digital banking, of the prospective entry of Walmart into the banking sector, and how can policymakers address them?
So, Senator, while this is not a core issue of the CFPB, it's something I've thought about quite a bit in my current role at the FTC. We have seen how large technology platforms are increasingly entering financial services. Facebook's Libra proposal drew a lot of scrutiny from this committee, as well as regulators all over the world, with respect to how it might impact privacy, fair competition, and even compliance with our money laundering laws. So I do think we have to make sure we're looking at the issues that are facing our country today, but also these other issues coming down the pike when it comes to market structure. I don't want to see a banking system or financial services system where new market entrants cannot get in, cannot compete, and win the day. Dominant players should not be able to squelch out competition, and that's something we
level
need to
playing
always
field.
be mindful of.
Level playing
Thank
field,
you, Mr.
right
Chopra.
there.
Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Senator Ossoff. That concludes the first round. The second round, a number of members on both sides would like questions. I think that I will start, but I think that Senator Ranking Member Toomey has asked that Senator Scott be the first Republican called on. So, Tim, I will call on you after my. I will not go the entire 5 minutes, and I will more strictly enforce the 5-minute rule too. We are fairly liberal.
This guy already screwed up and left his mic on.
There, Senator Scott, but fairly liberal with enforcement, but we will not be this time. Mr. Gensler, companies and investors have acknowledged the need for improved and consistent climate risk disclosures. The SEC last addressed this in 2010. Acting Chair Lee has recently undertaken a review of the earlier guidance. Mr. Gensler, are you going to do more than that?
Chairman Brown, as we've discussed in this hearing, I think that increasingly investors really want to see tens of trillions of dollars of assets behind it, or want to see climate risk disclosures. I think issuers would benefit from such guidance. So I think through good economic analysis, working with the staff, putting out to the public to get the public feedback on this, this is something that the commission, if I'm confirmed, I would work on.
Thank you.
DH, level playing field is 66.
For you. The past few years, we've seen a lot of changes in consumer finance markets. Companies are increasingly offering consumer financial products through mobile apps or using new methods of underwriting, such as relying on alternative
like this
credit
guy's
data
reading
or
right here, by the
algorithms
way.
that use artificial intelligence. What are some of the most significant developments you've seen in consumer finance? And what do you see as new risks to consumers from these developments, Mr. Chopra?
So, Senator, technology will play such an important role in our lives in every sector of the economy. But we also need to understand more clearly how mass data collection on all of us is impacting our privacy, the security of our data, and ultimately the decisions made by these algorithms. I think there's real questions about transparency. I've noted that there are many types of algorithmic decision-making where simply people are unable to ascertain why a certain decision has made. It has raised questions about discrimination as evidenced by Secretary Carson's complaint against Facebook in the housing context and so many others. So looking at how big data, particularly by large platforms who have detailed behavioral data on all of us, is something we must carefully look at because it will change financial services fundamentally. And we need to make sure that we have a vibrant and competitive market and not one that is simply dominated by a few.
Thank you, Commissioner Chopra. Before turning to Senator Scott, I want to enter into the record letters of endorsement from a bipartisan group of 26 state attorneys general, veterans, and military service organizations, as well as a broad coalition of civil rights, consumer, and housing organizations in support of Mr. Chopra's nomination, and letters from investor protection advocates, state regulators, and investment professionals in support of Mr. Gensler's nomination. Without objection, they are entered into the record. Senator Scott from South Carolina for the second round.
Thank you, Senator Brown. And Senator Brown, I noted your comments about liberalism and conservatism. I'll just note that even if it's just the amount of time that we each get for asking questions, anytime you move towards a conservative aisle, I'm happy to see that kind of movement from you, sir. So thank you very much for sharing those enlightening comments with me. Mr. Chopra, to you, sir. This is an easy question, I hope. Do you agree that Congress did not provide the CFPB regulatory oversight authority over insurance products and the insurance industry?
Yes, sir. That's an explicit exclusion from Title 10 of Dodd-Frank. The CFPB does not have authority over, I believe it's firms regulated by state insurance commissions.
Yes, sir. And as an old insurance guy myself, I am really impressed with the level of integrity and success that we've had in the state regulated insurance industry. And I hope that we are able to maintain that equilibrium as we move forward. Another question for you, sir, is I'm confident every senator here today supports responsible consumer protections and a robust, transparent marketplace of consumer products and services. I'm also certain that every senator present would agree that regulated entities should have the right to know what the rules of the road are before being charged with breaking them. Unfortunately, when the CFP was first established, its leadership quickly established that enforcement, rather than clearly articulated rules for regulated entities, would be the primary mechanism for protecting consumers. The CFPB's
Yeah, I don't think they'll say
frequent use of
XRP. They
enforcement
can't.
and supervisory authority
It's an ongoing
as an
case.
extension of rulemaking had a chilling effect on the marketplace as firms began to exit certain business lines rather than risk running afoul of the Bureau's vaguely defined and constantly shifting standards. So my question, sir, is if confirmed, will you strongly commit to the continued improvement of overall transparency, efficiency, and effectiveness of the CFPB's supervision and enforcement programs?
Yes, and I also will commit that the CFPB and every federal agency should be focused on fixing harms, making it clear to market participants what's expected of them. Ultimately, that is what creates a vibrant market, and that is something that the CFPB must do, adhering to all of the procedures Congress has laid out. That I am absolutely committed to.
Well, thank you, sir. My last question, understanding that the conservative nature of the time remaining is important, Chairman Brown. There's no doubt that the availability of responsible small dollar credit is essential to millions of Americans and plays a key role in helping consumers weather temporary cash flow imbalances, unexpected expenses, or income shortfalls during really challenging times like the pandemic that we're coming out of. In acknowledgement of that, CFPB, FDIC, FRB, NCUA, as well as the OCC issued a joint policy statement at the outset of the COVID-19 emergency that encouraged financial institutions to offer responsible small dollar loans to both consumers and small businesses. In the years since that statement was released, CFPB and other financial regulators have taken a number of positive actions to facilitate the ability of financial institutions to more effectively meet the small dollar credit needs of their communities and their customers. As director, what actions would you take, both independently and in coordination with other financial regulators, to encourage the availability of and access to a wide variety of credit choices for consumers?
So, Senator, I want to work closely with all of those agencies you've mentioned, and including the National Credit Union Administration, which has its own small dollar rubric. I also want to make sure that it's more than just access to credit. It's also about access to one's money. The faster consumers can control their money, and sometimes they have to wait days and days for it, that makes it harder for them to make ends meet. I referenced to one of your colleagues the importance of us having a modernized payment system. All of these actions will make it easier for consumers to have control of their own destiny and ultimately lead a strong financial life.
Thank you, sir. With 7 seconds left, let me just say to Ranking Member Toomey, thank you for the time. Chairman Brown, have a good day.
Thank you, Senator Scott. Senator Warren is next. I see her screen is open, but I don't see her. If she's
That guy is bored as hell. Look at him.
She is here.
He's resting his hand on the chin. That's boredom.
Enforcing the 5 minutes more strictly this round. So thank you.
Come on, talk about XRP. They're probably not going to because it's an open case or an ongoing case. What's going on right here?
Senator Warren.
Senators are. Oh, there we go. Look at his deer heads. Whoa.
I was here. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I couldn't hear you. So thank you. Commissioner Chopra, congratulations on your nomination. You have been a longtime advocate for consumers, and I have no doubt you are the right person to lead the Bureau at this moment. But you have a big task ahead of you. The last administration's appointees acted like they worked for the giant banks that they were supposed to regulate. So it's clear that the Bureau needs to return to its core mission of protecting consumers. So I want to ask you about your plans for one of the areas where the past leadership of the Bureau failed the most, and that's enforcing the fair lending laws that are designed to protect consumers from discrimination. In 2017, one of the very first things that Mick Mulvaney did when he took over as acting director was to gut the Bureau's Fair Lending Office and strip the attorneys of enforcement power. And no surprise, enforcement actions plummeted. So can you talk about your own plans for holding banks and financial companies accountable for discrimination?
So, Senator, thank you. I don't think this is just a problem at the CFPB. The FTC, where I work, did not file a single enforcement action on the Equal Credit Opportunity Act for years and years. I don't believe agencies should nullify Congress. We should enforce the laws that have been delegated to us. And it is particularly important when it comes to anti-discrimination. There are new ways in which financial institutions are using behavioral advertising, new forms of data collection, and we need to make sure that we're offering a robust way to understand how they can comply and hold them accountable when they're not. Our Fair Lending and Equal Opportunity Office at the CFPB, I had a chance to work with them the last time I worked there, is established by Congress, and it should play a critical role in making sure the law is being followed and meeting the objectives set out in the act.
Good. Well, I'm very glad to hear you say that, Commissioner Chopra. And, because the whole problem of discrimination in financial services exacerbates racial wealth inequalities. And I'm glad that you're going to make this a priority. It is long past time to send a signal to Wall Street that the Bureau is not going to turn the other way and look away when big financial institutions discriminate against Black, Latino, Asian, and Native customers. So thank you for that commitment. I also want to talk about the upcoming housing cliff that is facing millions of Americans.
Talk about XRP and Ripple.
Financial crash, financial
even though they probably can't.
Focused on helping banks and turn their backs largely on American families. The result was that about 10 million families lost their homes, with that burden falling heaviest on families of color. In response, the Obama administration established the CFPB to make sure that never happens again. Now, fast forward to the COVID-19 pandemic. Forbearance measures have staved off a similar wave of foreclosures, but those protections are not going to last forever. The good news is that unlike 2008, we now have an agency that is dedicated to putting consumers first. So let me ask you, Commissioner Chopra, can you explain the urgency of the current crisis and how you plan to use the Bureau's tools to prevent the mistakes that were made during the Great Recession from just happening all over again?
Well, Senator, I'd be remiss if I did not acknowledge the role you played in the establishment of the Bureau. And I know something I've spoken with you and many others on this committee is that what happened in the mortgage market in the years leading up to Lehman and the foreclosures that took place after, we have seen report after report after report about how devastating that was to families, to their future, to our economy, and it impacted our entire financial system. So we have the CFPB. It has been entrusted to monitor those mortgage markets, work side by side with each other regulator, work with states, and use the tools in the toolbox to spot those risks. And while Congress has hit pause on many of the troubles in the mortgage market, we are not out of this based on the data that I look at. Many families are going to struggle. They have lost income. They may not be able to resume. And we should make sure that they can stay in their homes when they have that ability to do so and not be deceived about what their options are. No one should be kicked out during a quarantine, particularly if they've been lied to. I really believe that strongly.
Well, I agree with you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Warner.
Thank you,
Senator Warren and Commissioner Chopra. Senator Ranking Member Toomey in the second round.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chopra, while the CFPB director is now finally removable by the president, the CFPB remains unaccountable to Congress in the sense that it's not subject to the appropriations process. In a 2016 interview at the University of Pennsylvania, you were asked about proposals for making the CFPB subject to appropriations or making it a 5-person commission. At the time, you said that congressmen who vote for these policies must be perceived as, quote, shilling for predatory lenders, end quote, and that, quote, supporting gutting the CFPB like that by starving it of resources or creating structures that don't allow it to do its job, there's no real good argument for it other than representing those who are essentially breaking the law, end quote. Well, in fact, Mr. Chopra, I and many of my colleagues have long and continue to support the policies of the ability to remove a CFPB director by the president, making it accountable to Congress by making it subject to appropriations. And for me, it's about accountability. So let me ask you, is it still your view that my colleagues and I just want to shill for, quote, predatory lenders and represent lawbreakers?
Damn, bro.
No, Senator, but when it comes to the banking regulators, the comptroller of the currency.
I just want to be clear that so you are retracting what you said back in 2016?
I'm happy to look at that. If I said that, I think many people's concerns about accountability are principled, and it is certainly not the case that everyone is just doing the bidding. I regret that if I said that, but ultimately I do believe that independent agencies are able to stay more clear of political influence, are able to exercise judgment carefully, and the comptroller of the currency and others, I do believe that
I understand that you could disagree with the opinion and the conclusion about the best mechanism for accountability, but I'm glad to hear that you are retracting the impugning of the motives of those of us who feel as we do. And I'd be happy to provide the video for you if you have a question about whether that's accurate.
This guy has receipts,
last year, the CFPB affirmed that supervisory guidance does not have the force or effect of law. And this year, it issued a rule to codify that principle. So I certainly welcome this commitment to the rule of law, especially in light of the CFPB's troubling past practice of taking enforcement action based on supervisory guidance. I think in our previous conversation, you agreed that with this step taken by the CFPB, I just want to be clear, are you committing to complying with this law, with this rule, or do you intend to revisit and attempt to change this rule that was passed this year to codify that principle?
So Senator, I appreciate the question. Guidance does not have, cannot impose obligations. That is not the appropriate way in which new laws are created or is outside of the regulatory process. I understand your concerns, but I have not read that rule very specifically. But supervisory guidance is really supposed to be there to help institutions be able to understand how to best comply. It can cover sometimes emerging issues that provide guidance. But I agree with
this is about sticking with the rule that codifies the principle that guidance can't act as a rule. My last question here has to do with the indirect auto lending. This was an egregious example of the CFPB's enforcement crusade, and it specifically relied on a very controversial disparate impact theory, and it was issued by a supervisory bulletin rather than a proper rule. The GAO confirmed that the CFPB's bulletin functioned as a rule and was therefore subject to the Congressional Review Act. And Congress, as you know, overturned this misguided policy. Now, when you and I spoke last week, I asked you if you intended to reopen the issue that Congress had closed through the CRA and create some new version of an auto lending rule premised on the disparate impact theory. And I think you said you committed to me that you would not do that. Did I have that right? And will you confirm that commitment today?
The Congressional Review Act resolution has nullified that guidance document, and the CFPB will continue to adhere to that if I'm confirmed. And I will continue to monitor any of these concerns you have to work with you further. But That has been nullified, and that is now the law.
Okay.
Time has expired. Thank you, Senator Toomey. Senator Warnock of Georgia, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you so very much, Chairman Brown. It's great to be here with you, and let me say how excited I am to be named chairman of this committee's subcommittee on financial institutions.
There's that flag again.
Protection. I look
That's
forward
we are too. Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you and Ranking Member Toomey, I'm sorry, and the subcommittee's Ranking Member Senator Tillis to ensure stability in our financial markets and to protect consumers. Commissioner,
that's the war flag behind him.
Thank you so much.
With the gold fringes on the flag, that means war.
For this committee today, as I travel
the gold fringes.
Georgia, I'm hearing a lot, and I heard a lot during my campaign from
war flag
loan borrowers, and that's a story I know personally. I'm the first college graduate in my family. And I wouldn't be here were it not for Pell Grants and low interest student loans. But the students who are borrowing money now are just getting crushed under the debt limit. And the student loan burden has real implications, not only for the borrowers, but for our economy. People are not able to buy homes, start small businesses, the kinds of things that move our economy forward. And of course, this is disproportionately impacting Black and brown borrowers, particularly Black women. I know that you previously served as a student loan ombudsman at the Bureau. And what I would like to know is this, as director, what would you do to protect student loan borrowers from predatory student loan companies, servicers, and debt collectors, and where are the places and opportunities for real reform?
So, Senator, I'm glad you mentioned this because I really think about the problem you raise as a double whammy. For many people of color, families of color, they're more likely to need to borrow to go to college, and then in many cases, after graduating, continue to face a wage gap. In many cases, the data has showed that African-American females with college degrees have not really seen their wages go up, even after all of that studying. And that means that the debt that they bear is even more difficult to service. So there's a lot of problems in our student loan system when it comes to schools and government policies, but also the CFPB has to make sure it is doing its job to make sure the law is being followed when it comes to lending, when it comes to servicing, when it comes to debt collection. I want to re-engage with the states, with the Department of Education, if confirmed, to make sure that those borrowers are not set more behind. This has implications for an entire generation, but also the issue you raised about the racial wealth gap. It's very, very critical that we get this right.
Well, thank you. I look forward to working with you on this issue. It's my view that our young people should not have to mortgage their future just to have a shot at a future. And it's pressing not only for them, but for our entire economy. In the remaining minutes that I have, in 2013, you testified before this committee and talked about how service members, veterans, and military families were too often the canary in the coal mine, as you put it. And when it came to breakdowns in consumer finance markets, we've seen members of our military in active duty, deployed, literally forced to fly back home from combat zones to save their homes from illegal foreclosures, his own kind of combat. Can you talk about your experience enforcing and expanding consumer protections, especially for our military families, and how you would use the tools and resources at the Bureau to protect military borrowers?
So, Senator, thank you. I've had the honor of testifying before this committee several times before, and I do believe that how institutions treat members of the military can be a canary in the coal mine for others. It is true that military families, they move more, they have more complex situations. It can be tricky. And if institutions are improperly foreclosing on them, throwing them into default, overcharging them, misreporting information on their credit bureaus, it can raise questions about whether they have the processes and the agility to deal with complex situations. I was very proud to work with other agencies on a massive SCRA-related investigation and enforcement action involving a nationwide student loan overcharging scam. We have to make sure we're continuing to work with the Justice Department, with other regulators to crack down on that, especially as we anticipate risks in the mortgage market.
XDC is also connected to Ripple.
Well,
it's not just XRP that's going to go. It's a whole network of cryptos that's going to go.
Men and women in uniform are obviously putting it all on the line for us to protect us, and the least we can do is protect them from abusive practices in our financial systems. And I look forward to working with you to do that.
Thank you, Senator Warnock. Senator Tillis for the second round.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chopra, thank you and congratulations on your nomination. I want to go back on, the CFPB is authorized to prevent unfair and deceptive practices. And I think you know that Congress has used these terms deliberately with the backdrop of the FTC president establishing limits on these authorities. I think even former Director Cordray was careful to adhere to the president. But I understand on a Department of Transportation rule to define unfair and deceptive practices, you urged that agency to treat those authorities as significantly broader than the same authorities under the FTC and the CFPB. Should I infer from that you're willing to go further than even Director Cordray did on expanding the CFP authorities?
No, Senator, I think if I understand your question, the Department of Transportation has a different unfairness jurisdiction. The CFPB's unfairness authority, I believe word for word, is harmonized with the FTC Act. I believe in staying within the four corners of the law. I'm happy to answer additional questions about that Department of Transportation comment letter. But it is a different unfairness standard than what exists in the FTC Act or in the Dodd-Frank Act.
Can I infer from that you would at least use rulemaking if you were to go into clearly define what an abusive practice would be, subject to rulemaking?
So ultimately, we have to enforce the law as written. There have been a number of cases where courts and others have found that the fact patterns meet the prongs of, in this case, the prohibition on abusive acts and practices. The last director has actually promulgated a rule on short-term lending that specifies certain abusive practices, particularly the repeated debiting of accounts that may lead to overdraft fees. Ultimately, we need to enforce the law, and at times rulemaking can be a tool that's being used. But I take from your question that it's important that it's clear, and we do what we can to make sure that what the law requires is understandable. And ultimately, we have to follow what Congress has written in that statute and be subjected to judicial scrutiny.
Thank you. I just have one other question. Knowing this is the second round, I'll try and be brief, but this relates to a broader issue that I see. I've seen comments from high-ranking officials. I've seen guidances effectively become de facto rules where the industry sees a nod in a certain direction. They feel like they have to really conform to something that's not a rule, which adds a lot of cost, a lot of complexity, a lot of uncertainty. Do you think that it's appropriate that a guidance effectively becomes a rule, or that even a speech or a comment that you could make in an interview could actually drive an entirely new regulatory regimen for the industry?
Well, Senator, I particularly worry about this type of uncertainty for smaller players, new players. They don't have, a bunch of people working in Washington for them to track all of this. Being as transparent as possible has to be, always a priority. I understand what you're saying, and it's important that that be communicated through all the appropriate channels. That's being said, there is a place, in my view, for the agencies to speak at industry conferences, talk about data and trends, talk about new developments, be able to explain how they might want to think about that. But I understand what you say, and I'm very committed to that transparent communication, particularly as it relates to making sure that small players can compete with larger incumbents.
Thank you, Mr. Chopra. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Till. Senator Menendez for a second round.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chopra, we are in a midst of a full-blown student debt crisis with 43 million of our fellow citizens.
Welcome to the puppet show. Facts, Shook Mike.
In student loan debt. And instead of helping provide relief to those borrowers by regulating a student loan market plagued by harmful practices, our country's consumer watchdog was asleep at the wheel, in my perspective, for the last 4 years. I think that student loan
that
debt
puppet show is real, boy.
The very foundations of the American middle class, society as a whole. So,
hey, he said ripple effect. He said ripple effect.
Does the CFPB have authority to oversee and supervise that $1.5 trillion worth of consumer debt, including debt owed to the federal government?
Yes, my understanding, the existing law and implementing regulations, those entities, servicers, debt collectors, they are covered as consumer financial products and services.
And do you believe the extent of the current student debt crisis calls for the use of the Bureau's full slate of authorities to ensure that federal and private student loan servicers are complying with consumer financial protection laws?
Yeah, so Senator, student loans used to actually be more of the exception, and now they're the norm. While I was at the Bureau the last time, the agency reported that student loans had crossed the $1 trillion mark. It's now $1.7 trillion. There was years where more than 1 million Americans were defaulting, even when they had a legal entitlement to loan modifications and income-driven repayment. This has to be something. It's one of the biggest consumer credit markets in our country after mortgages. And we have to make sure that the law is being followed. And I have seen some real improvements over the last decade in the activities of some of these firms. And I hope that that continues. And I hope that there are high levels of compliance with the laws that Congress has passed.
Well, thank you for that. During your tenure as the student loan ombudsman, the CFPB returned over $750 million to wrong student borrowers. That's the type of work I'd like to see the CFPB return to. And then finally, I want to follow up on Senator Warnock's questions to you about the disproportionate impact student loans have on minority communities. I, like him, who grew up poor in a tenement in Union City, first in my family to go to college, would have never done so without the, Pell's, Perkins, and work study. So I'm very familiar and firsthand knowledge of the consequences. But should the Bureau examine whether student loan servicers are violating civil rights laws or engage in other unlawful conduct that disproportionately hurts minority student loan borrowers?
So many of those firms are subject, I believe all of them, to the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. We have seen that it is critical to ensure that there is appropriate enforcement of that law, not just on the origination side, but also as established guidance says, it applies to the other parts of the consumer credit life cycle. We can't really make a mistake when it comes to this, ensuring that our anti-discrimination laws are adhered to is important for the goals that the Congress has set out in those laws.
Well, thank you. I look forward to supporting your nomination to your leadership of the agency upon confirmation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Menendez. Either Senator Lummis, if she's coming back, Senator Haggerty, if he's coming back, or Senator Lummis, if he's coming back, or if she's coming back, or Senator Daines, who has come back. Senator Daines, your second round. All right. Please stick to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Chairman Brown, your ability to handle the juggling here is quite impressive, I will say.
It's not complicated.
It's not an easy task here with our senators here going in and out. I don't envy you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These questions here for Mr. Chopra. As you know, following the Supreme Court's decision in the Seal of Law LLC versus CFPB case, the director of the CFPB is removable for any reason and serves at the pleasure of the president. We're now only considering your nomination because the prior director resigned at the request of the president with 3 years left in her term. And regardless of where one stands in the political spectrum, I hope everyone can agree that this instability at the top of an agency with such vast power is frightening. So my question is, do you agree the CFPB should be led by a multi-member commissioner, or commission, I should say, versus one person?
So, Senator, it's the job of Congress to determine the appropriate agency structure. Some of our financial regulators are led by a single director, removable by an executive official, the Federal Housing Finance Agency, I believe, the comptroller of the currency. Others are set up as boards or commissions. I currently sit on a commission, a multi-member body. Ultimately, Congress is vested with the authority to establish these structures.
It is. You're exactly right. It's our responsibility, not yours. I'm just curious, as somebody who you say sits on a commission today, who's also you're very knowledgeable of the CFPB. Just what are your thoughts about would it better serve the American people if it was a multi-member commission versus led by one person? I'm curious your opinion, your thoughts.
Well, in my view, regardless if it's a single director or a multi-member commission, there needs to be accountability. There needs to be responsiveness. Some commissions work well. Some single directors work well. And the opposite can be true too. Where I sit at the FTC, this agency has missed some of the worst abuses when it comes to invasions of privacy by big tech, has failed to enforce some of its core orders. I do look at the CFTC under Gary Gensler's leadership that did actually take appropriate actions, was responsive, was transparent. Ultimately, again, this is Congress's decision. But what I'm committed to is no matter what the structure is, we have to follow the law, adhere to the law, be responsive to Congress and the public.
Yeah, no, I think the concern I'm hearing from many out there that we serve the American people is just the fact that it can swing wildly between political parties regarding different regulatory philosophies, at the whim of the person at the helm and the president who appoints him. So it's a concern. I just want to raise it, and I've heard that from many of my constituents back home in Montana.
I appreciate that. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, anyway, thank you. I'll keep going at a time. So here's a question. Do you believe that business, I came from the private sector, spent most of my career there. Is business a harmful force?
Senator, there's no one more who thinks than me that business is one of the best forces for our lives in America. I am not a lawyer, nor is Mr. Gensler. I studied business. I've worked in the private sector. I believe that business is, frankly, what Thomas Jefferson wanted for a free country. What I do have a problem with is when particularly large actors can bully small businesses or break the law and not be held accountable. At the FTC, we lay the hammer on small businesses. We go after the individuals, we take everything, but sometimes don't do the same, don't treat a larger firm using the same set of scrutiny, even though the law is exactly the same. So I think
Right. Would you prejudge in any way a business's actions based on whether you had an unfavorable view of the industry that's part of?
Absolutely not. That is not the job of an agency. The job is to administer the law that the Congress has set. And that would be inappropriate to have, whims or views about particular types of businesses.
So the concern I have is you dissented regularly with astonishing regularity from FTC actions because you complained the penalties weren't punishing enough. So your record of the FTC has, I know, raised some concerns for many on this committee.
Well, Senator,
be brief with your answer, Commissioner, please, as we wrap up.
Senator, I don't believe. Oh, I don't know if the senator has froze. Senator, I don't believe that I'm happy to share any of the opinions I've written. I believe that over 93% of decisions were unanimous, but I do have a problem when fraudsters are, get off with not having to redress their victims. We are sometimes not doing enough to hold businesses accountable when it comes to the harm that they cause, even when it is an outright violation of the law. I certainly objected to the FTC's Facebook settlement, which was subject to, in my view, not even fixing the core problem that led to the massive violations. And Senator,
his camera is lagging. Wow.
Discuss that more with you. But ultimately, we want honest business to be able to thrive and to compete, and for bad actors to be held accountable when they commit fraud.
The time has expired. Thank you, Senator.
Thanks.
Senator Lummis for 5 minutes. I think you're last. Go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, Mr. Chopra. It's nice to see you again. My first question is about usury laws. They've historically been the province of state legislatures. My state of Wyoming even has a usury cap. I, in fact, remember the debate because I was a state legislator at the time. Dodd-Frank prohibits the CFPB from imposing maximum interest charges on consumer credit. Do you agree that the CFPB lacks the authority to impose a usury cap?
So, Senator, my understanding is that you're right, that usury caps, interest rate caps, that is primarily the provenance of states. And I believe there's some explicit language in Title 10 of Dodd-Frank that prohibits the CFPB from establishing something like that. I'm happy to look at it more closely if there are more specific questions, but that is my understanding of the law.
Nope, great answer. That's fabulous. Thank you. Now, if confirmed, you will have the honor of being a member of the FDIC board. And Congress has specified that industrial lending companies are entitled to deposit insurance if they have a safe and sound plan of operation. This is the easiest question you'll be asked today. Will you consider the individual merits of each and every application and grant deposit insurance to an ILC with a safe and sound plan of operation?
Yes, I will follow the law when it comes to applications. I will, of course, rely heavily on the FDIC staff. That's their real expertise, but in as much that applications are subject to these laws and regulations, of course, that should be the standard by which they're evaluated by.
Thank you. And my last question, Chairwoman McWilliams was confirmed by the Senate to set the direction of the FDIC. Section 6B of the FDIC bylaws allows 2 members of the FDIC board to call a special meeting of the board. Since you will not be the chairperson of the FDIC board, will you commit not to force votes on matters the FDIC chairwoman has not included on the board's agenda?
So, Senator, I'm actually not familiar with these rules of procedure, but I'm happy to take questions for the record on that. Is the question that the chairwoman has a statutory right to call meetings, or, and I apologize if I'm not fully understanding all of it, but I'm happy to take a close look.
Okay, it's a bylaws thing, and you bet I will submit questions for the record. And thank you very much for your time.
Senator. And thank you for
all I have. I get to yield back almost 2 minutes.
Thank you, Senator Lemus. Is Senator Hagerty here? I assume not. So we are drawing to a close. I think he's not. Thank you. Well, thank you to Mr. Gensler and Commissioner Chopra for being here today and providing testimony. The longest committee meeting I remember in the Senate Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs Committee, with the interest from so many members in second rounds. For senators who wish to submit questions, for the record, these questions are due by the close of business this coming Friday, March 5th. For our witnesses, please submit your responses to questions for the record by noon on Monday, March 8th. We obviously want to move on nominations quickly is the reason for the squeezed time period. Thank you again. With that, the hearing is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, it's over? Damn. That's awesome. I thought it was gonna take freaking 5 hours. Okay. So that was the hearing right there. Nomination, Gary Gensler. Let me turn on some music. We can keep streaming now. I thought it was gonna take longer than that. Let me turn on some lo-fi music. What's up? What's up, everybody? We'll do the daily market update right now then. We'll do the daily market update right now. I was just eating some breakfast. That went good though. That went good though, in my opinion. That definitely went good. Gary Gensler, I want to see him. I want to see him in there. That was all positive. All of them were laughing. All of them were just laughing. There was some jokes, like some compliments between all of them. I saw nothing negative about that. But it's like, bro, it looks like they're just following some kind of, like, they just know what's gonna happen. You can see it on their faces. Shook Mike breakfast, it's 1. Dude, it's 10 a.m. here. I'm out here in Vancouver, Canada. Willard, thank you. Yeah, that all looked positive right there. That all looked positive. I love that. So let's go to CoinDesk. Let's go to CoinDesk and check out what's happening. Canada breakfast is at 1. Really? Y'all eat breakfast at 1? Okay, what's happening here? Dogecoin is going on some ATMs. Look at this. Are you serious? Dogecoin bounds onto 1,800 ATMs in the United States. How is a smile positive? They can also laugh about Ripple. I mean, just the vibes are good. If they're smiling, one guy came at him pretty heavy. It was the Kennedy guy. Whoever that Kennedy guy was, he was coming at them with some questions. Can you do a recap on your take after? My take on that is that it was all positive. It was all positive. There was nothing really. They were dancing around their words, kind of. It's just smoke and mirrors. Yep, Marduk. It's just smoke and mirrors. They are leading us to a certain. They are leading us to a certain situation, meaning like they're gonna use headlines and stuff, and it's just gonna play out, kind of like a maze that they're just having to weave through, because Ripple is very disruptive. It's very fast. It'll speed up the financial system. Like everything is like this with Ripple. It's just seconds. Within seconds, it's back and forth, money, value. Ripple aims to make value move like information. Isn't that amazing? Like right now, I can get information at will. I just type it in on Google, and it's instant information, right? So Ripple wants to make money and value like that, where it can just move. It can be instant. Yeah, the hearing was good. Is Gensler the official SEC chairman now? They didn't really conclude that. Like, they didn't say, okay, he's in or something. I don't even know. I'm not even sure. What's the XRP market gonna do? Just hold is all I'm gonna say. How do you think about the negative news around MoneyGram? It's interesting. They're losing millions because they're not partnered with Ripple. Let's hop back in here though. Dogecoin is 1,800 ATMs. Are you serious? They're on 1,800 ATMs. Has anybody used a Bitcoin ATM? I remember one of my first times in 2017 buying Bitcoin. I used a Bitcoin ATM, and I still have the receipt to this day. And it's gonna go down as a legendary item. Let's go to Crypto Panic and let's check out what's going on. This is an amazing news aggregator. If you guys don't know, this is dope. This right here, it shows you everything that's going on by the minute. So we've got the Dogecoin going on. What else? Look at this. This just came out. PayPal news. I haven't read this at all. I was just watching the hearing. I'm gonna keep the title up though, just because it gets people to click on here, which is funny. But shout out to everyone in here. We got like 300 viewers. I love you all. I bet most of you are XRP holders. So what happened with XRP? Nothing happened with XRP, but they were dancing around their words on the Ripple thing. They were really dancing around their words. But that all looked positive. All looked positive to me. But look at this. PayPal is gonna buy Curve. PayPal continues to show an interest in crypto. Purchasing Curve. What is Curve? An Israeli crypto custody firm. That is very interesting. You said how much XRP am I holding? Never tell your XRP amount. It's very dangerous. It makes you a target. Never flaunt your XRP amount because you're potentially holding an asset that's supposed to be held by banks. Remember that. Always remember that. When you hold XRP, you hold an asset that is supposed to be held by banks to move value around. Which crypto do you advise to buy right now? Well, I'm not a financial advisor, but personally, I like XRP. I like Hedera Hashgraph, which is right here. I like Hedera Hashgraph. I like XDC. I like VeChain. I like Algorand, IOTA, Ocean Protocol. There's so many good ones. So many good ones that I love. Stellar as well. Let's check out the market though. Let's check out the market. Whoa, it's kind of mixed market today. Some stuff is down. Some stuff is up. Interesting. I love Theta as well. What else on here? Chainlink I love. Wow. FTX token almost at 30 bucks. Damn. But that is what the market is looking like right now. Look at Elrond. I have full videos on Elrond as well. Yeah, XLM, Zilliqa, I love. Kusama right here, I love that. What do you make of the XRP fee spike on the 26th? Interesting. It's just there to make some headlines or something. Yeah, Zinfin as well. I'm gonna put you guys on. I'm about to put you guys on. 300 people in here, you're about to get put on. Zinfin network. This is essentially, in my opinion, this is essentially like catching XRP or HBAR at 4 cents. And look at their website. They are enterprise ready hybrid blockchain. And they actually have XDC coin burn. They actually have a coin burn coming up. They have a coin burn coming up. Right here. This is January 27. If you click on here, you'll see that Zinfin is about to burn 500 million more tokens. So they've been doing some big burns. And that happens on March 31. And we've also got the PundiX. PundiX also has a burn coming up. Or a supply cut, not a burn. but they will be going to 250 billion to 250 million. Is Bitcoin gonna hit 100K by the end of the year? Easily could. It easily could. Easily could, but I would recommend this is what I have done for me. Personally, I have taken all my Bitcoin holdings and I have put it into altcoins. That is personally what I've done. Okay, let's see what else is going on. PayPal is buying this. Curve. Wait, what is this? They actually bought the company. That's very interesting. CRV up on news. PayPal acquired a completely different company named Curve. Carlos Ramos, you said short XRP. Oh, let's check out the XRP chart. Let's check out the XRP chart. I don't do chart analysis on this channel, by the way. I act as a breath of fresh air. I just cover news. I cover spirituality plus crypto, because in my opinion, they do go together, because we all have more open minds than the normal person. XRP is dumping hard. Wow. 58 all the way down to 43 within one day. Are you serious? Look at this. Prime time to buy. This is a blessing right here. This is a blessing right here. Look at this huge spike. That was February 21, 62 cents right there. Yeah, this is insane. Mason, wake up. Oh, I'm awake. I'm awake. Let me know what you think about USMJ. What the hell is that? I'm not even gonna look at that. Bro, you can't be going around flaunting your XRP, man. You hold an asset that's supposed to be held by banks. Meaning the value is the only thing it's missing. I just covered that in my last live stream. Let's go here. What else is going on? Major Canadian car dealer. I'm in Canada, by the way. Major Canadian car dealer to accept Bitcoin. Which one? H. Gregg. H. Gregg. Wow. Can I go to H. Gregg's website? H. Gregg is about to accept Bitcoin. That is crazy. So y'all can buy some cars with your Bitcoin profits. The Ivy's gonna spread. Yep, Hedera Hashgraph. What am I buying today? What would I buy today? I would buy XRP today. What else would I buy? I would get some under $20 Cosmos. Under $20 Cosmos right there. Look at Theta. Theta just has killed it this year. Theta just has killed it. Let's go to CoinGecko and we can see how much Theta is up in the year. I love Theta. Theta is insane. Yeah, look at that. 3,000. Y'all see this? 3,000% in the year for Theta. Where's this car dealership? I swear I'm gonna buy some. Damn, Jade is spamming me on Discord. Last question, Mason. Is Ethereum good? Yes. I love Ethereum, even though it's trash right now. Why 10,000 minimum? Theta is going to be the next YouTube. It very well could be. Or it could do a merger. It could do a merger with Theta. I'm getting ready for some mergers, meaning like different companies like kind of swallow up each other and just merge into one big one. ENJ is great. Yes, I called Engine. If you would have bought Engine when I was talking about it, you would have like tripled your money already. Look at this. This is Engine. I was talking about it probably, wait, is that 24th of February? Yeah, I was talking about it like here at 51 cents and now it's up at 80. Well, I guess I was it had a huge dip, so you could have actually bought at 40 cents and doubled your money. But Engine, I love Engine. What else do we got? Oh, Cardano? Cardano is becoming 100% decentralized. Wow. Full decentralization is expected this month. Yesterday, March 1, 2020, the Mary hard fork was activated on the ADA blockchain. Wow. Good Cardano news right here for any Cardano holders. Logan, you want to be the Bitcoin? Oh, you want the Bitcoin decoration behind me. Sacred Bitcoin. I had to get that to I had to get that because this is the father. This started all of crypto right here. So I was gonna get a Ripple, but they don't have one. I was gonna get a Ripple one. Ford accepts Bitcoin. March 31. XTZ or eGold? I would say eGold. I would say eGold. Let me turn this music down a tiny bit. Will Bitcoin go to 38K? Yeah, probably. Honestly. I'm not a fan of Bitcoin, folks. I'm sorry to not promote. I'm sorry to not promote the one they want me to promote. But this is good news for Cardano right there. Yeah, they want me to promote Bitcoin for sure. They want me to promote Bitcoin. But guess what? Guess what? You know how many sponsorship emails and paid promotion emails I deleted in February? 13. I deleted 13 paid promotion emails for random stuff, crypto stuff, just so I can keep putting out my message, not their message that they want me to. Like, it's so stupid. They keep offering to pay me to promote random stuff, and I throw it in the garbage in my email. Because my TikTok is growing very fast. So a lot of brands and different crypto sponsorships are reaching out. Right to the trash. Right to the trash. They're trying to pollute my truth. What are your thoughts on Cardano and Elrond? Honestly, I like Elrond better. If you buy Cardano right now, you might be waiting. You might be waiting till end of year to see like $3. You're telling me Bitcoin is paying you? No. Bitcoin is not a company. What's my TikTok handle? My TikTok handle is right here. It is Crypto Mason with a U. Right here. That's my TikTok handle. Yeah. We got this. Okay, we covered Zinfin. We covered Cardano being a fully decentralized. I really like that. Whoa, you can buy a Hyundai with Bitcoin. You can buy a used Hyundai with Bitcoin. Are you a fan of Quant or XDC? Yes, absolutely both of them. I hold a lot of Quant and I hold a lot of XDC. Can I show you something about Quant here? I don't even think I have it on here, but Quant is crazy. Where do you get Zinfin? You get Zinfin on Bitrue. Please check Tron. I sold all my Tron. I sold all my Tron. But let's see. Damn. Yeah, I'm not holding any Tron currently. What do you think about Chainlink? I love Chainlink. I would add some H-bar, Roy Owen. Do you believe that Elon Musk is in contact with aliens? He's in contact with an alien part of his brain. Yes. What's going on with XRP? Nothing's going on with XRP. It's just dumping really hard. And it's a perfect time to buy some. It's discounted XRP right here, folks. Discounted XRP. Have you invested any money in Hollow? No, I haven't. No, I haven't. Telcoin is dope. Telcoin is dope. I watch Telcoin's LinkedIn thing. Hell yeah. So overall, if you're joining and you're new, we just watched the Gary Gensler SEC hearing, and it was all positive. It was all positive. The vibes, I was feeling them. Yeah, IOTA. There is a guy saying the market cap is having the same breakout in 2017. Yeah, it is. I agree. I agree. This bull run, I've said it multiple times, it's gonna be insanity. Insanity. BitTorrent, decent. Polygon, fire, because it's probably along the same lines as PolySign, which is a project or a David Schwartz creation that they don't want you to know about necessarily. Oh, here's some news from the right here. SEC chair nominee Gensler calls cryptocurrencies catalyst for change. So we got to see it live. This is the headline. This is the headline they chose. Because we just watched the whole hearing and we did hear him say this. But this is what they chose to take out of it, which is interesting. Wow. What about Mana? I like Engine better than Mana for the NFT or for the yeah, the what category is that? They're in the same category. If you go to NFT and collectibles, whoa, Flow. Flow is number 1? That is insane. Oh my, they have 23 million only circulating supply. Wow, Flow might be a good buy. I haven't looked at Flow much. That's crazy. Do you think today's hearing was good for the XRP case? Yes, it was. In my opinion, yes, it was. Whoa, did I just really see all that purple? There's a lot of purple going on right there. Engine is working in real estate, yup. What's your hidden gem under 100 million market cap? Right here. I'm gonna give you this hidden gem and I'm gonna leave the stream. I'm gonna wrap this up. This is my hidden gem under 100 million market cap. Self-key. I really like self-key. And also Player. Player. This is a super duper small one. Like super duper small one. And this is actually, I'm gonna plug you guys up right here. Pause. If you guys can get an account on OceanX, it's only on one exchange, but this is a secret VeChain project right here. This is a secret VeChain project. Watch. Watch. We go to their website, right? Will BitTorrent reach 7 cents in 2023? I don't even know. I don't pay attention to Bitcoin. BitTorrent. This is Player. And watch this. They're connected directly with VeChain. Strategic partner. This is a secret one. This is a secret one. It's 1000th ranked. And it's, look at that. It's way under a cent. Anas Ben Siad, you're gonna get banned, bro, if you keep spamming that. If you keep spamming that, how do I ban him? Let's ban him. Y'all about to be banned from the stream. If you keep spamming that, bro. How do I ban? Hold up. Boom. How do I even do that? Yeah, there we go. Okay. He's banned. BitTorrent will not go to 7 cents in 2023. I don't even know. I don't follow it. But this is the hidden gem. This is the hidden gem I'm going to leave off the stream with. This is Player. And if you look at it, it's a gaming coin. It's a gaming ecosystem coin, and it's built with a strategic partner that is VeChain, right here. This is VeChain with Player. But the only problem is you can't get it on anywhere except OceanX. This is a gem, but you can't get it anywhere except OceanX. So you need VeChain, as you can see right here. You're gonna need some VeChain or you're gonna need some Bitcoin, right? Because if anybody's a beginner, this means that you need to buy Player with VeChain right here. And this one means that you need to buy Player with Bitcoin. So this is only available on OceanX, which is crazy. It's not even listed on any huge exchanges. Price prediction for Player, I can't give you a price prediction because it's so new. It's only on a couple exchanges, but I found out that it's directly connected with VeChain. I bought a bunch of these. You want to see how much you can get? Watch this. I'm going to show you how much Player you can get because it's so small. Now, I am not saying that Player is going to go crazy. I am not saying that it's going to be worth a lot. All I'm saying is that it's connected to VeChain and that I personally bought some and that the market cap is only 5 million. So look at this. So say you want to spend, let's say you drop, yes, the caption says XRP. Bro, y'all are so attached to your emotions. We just watched the Ripple SEC hearing. Watch this. If you want to drop 200, you can get 1 million. You could get 1 million Player, which is kind of crazy if you drop 200 bucks. But this is strategic partner with VeChain right here. Only on OceanX. It's just a kind of a hidden gem that I personally dropped some money in. It has the same total supply as XRP. Listen to my words, please. Analyze the words that I'm saying. Detach from your emotions and listen to my words. I didn't say this is like XRP, and I never said this is gonna go high. All I'm saying is that it's a strategic partner with VeChain, and I love VeChain. And it's gaming. It's a gaming coin. You can read the white paper. But that is all. I'm gonna hop off here. This live stream will be saved. This live stream will be saved on on my YouTube so that you can watch it. Watch it back. We covered about half of the hearing. Could you check out Eurus token and their trading terminal for traders that combine CEX? Eurus token? I will look at that. I will look at that. Let me see. Let me just generally see it. Eurus token? I'll look into that. I will look into that. Maybe I'll put it in a video. Thank you for the 5 euros. I love you all. Their trading terminal. I'll look at the trading terminal. Thank you for that tip right there. Price prediction for XRP. I don't do price predictions. I'm not here to sell you false hope and tell you that I'm not here to sell you any false dreams. All I'm saying is that you hold an asset that's supposed to be in the hands of banks. That's all. That's all. And just to plug at the end of this, I want to show you, if you're new here, this is my YouTube channel. We don't do chart analysis, nothing crazy technical. I analyze this stuff from a spiritual perspective. Right here, you've got a video called, here's some of my best videos. Right here, you've got one called Why XRP Should Be $100. Me yelling at my camera for 13 minutes. That's an example of my video. Of my videos. Here I did a 33-minute video on Flare Network. 33-minute video on Flare Network. What else do we got? Some of my best videos. I have a video called "Is XRP going to $10,000? Is it possible?" I have some spiritual decoding on some of these cryptos. My take on Ocean X is that I had a good experience with the Ocean X. I occasionally go live on this channel. I've got a 40-minute video on Hedera Hashgraph right here. I've got some different theories that I go over of my personal theories, some thoughts on Ripple XRP right here. I've got an entire beginner course. An entire beginner course. Where is it? Right here. If you're a beginner in crypto, this is free, and this is an entire beginner course on how to get into crypto right there. But I'm going to end off this live stream. Thank you so much for all the super chats throughout the whole live stream. Thank you for watching with me. And if you're not subscribed, I highly recommend it, because I am a breath of fresh air from people who want to say that they found the next billion X coin, they found the next trade to make you a bajillionaire. I would never say some dumb shit like that. We're all about truth here. So drop a subscribe, turn the little post notification bell on if you want to never miss a live stream. If you get them notifications on, you'll never miss a live stream, and you'll never miss a video. Drop a like on this, and thank you all for being here. I'm gonna peace out. Let me turn my music off, and stay tuned for some more videos. Follow me on TikTok. Check all the links in the description. I love you all, and goodbye.
So she said to me, "Quick, can you give me what I want? I don't know about you, but I feel so good. Girl, I can make you feel real. I